Go live! We are live! Woo! We'll give it a few seconds to see if anybody comes in. But if you're watching this on replay, it's time to discuss Go the Distance! And I'm really excited because I really liked it. Did you like it?
Yes, very much so.
Good. I saw you gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, and I was like, oh, yay, she has a lot of emotions to share.
I really liked it.
Good. I'm really glad. Okay, I see 3 people. Hello. Welcome to the Tale as Old as Time Book Club live discussion of Go the Distance by Jen Calonita, which is a take on Hercules, Disney's Hercules. And it was our book that we read in June and July, because I remember what day it is. It's July. Time is so strange right now. But yes, and I have a guest host today. This is Nicole. She's one of my favorite people in the entire world, and she's going to join me today, and we're going to talk all things Go the Distance. So I hope you're all ready, because it's going to be fun. Hello, Elena.
So,
welcome in to everybody.
Oh no. I hear an echo. Hold on.
Oh no. Technical difficulties are part of the game on a live show, so. Yes, Patty Hope is not joining me today. She is not feeling too well, so Nicole has graciously stepped in to join me, guest host this month. Hello, Janice. Hello to everybody over there. I see some people watching, which is very exciting. And I want to know, everybody in the chat, have you seen Hercules? And do you love Hercules? Because the answer for me is yes and yes. If only for the soundtrack, I love Hercules. It's such a good soundtrack.
It is a great soundtrack.
So good. Hello, Alicia. We're going to try the headphone.
I'm going to see if this is a little bit better, but we'll see. It's a look.
Fingers crossed. It is a look. I think it's a great look.
That's what happens when you ask your daughter for headphones. You get Pokemon.
It's the you gotta do what you gotta do look.
Yes.
You know, it's
absolutely.
So yes, in the chat, everybody let us know. How do you feel about Hercules, the movie, the Disney film? So good. What do you think, Nicole? Do you love Hercules?
I love Hercules. It's not one of my favorites, but it's one of Brad's favorites and one of Belle's favorites. So I have like this growing love for it.
Right.
And I like the comedic like play. However, sometimes I feel like when I read a book, I love a movie more because it broadens my view. Yes. So instead of the only parts that I'm focusing on being what I'm concentrated to look at, I now have everything in sight. And the more books that they write about a certain movie, the more I get like invested deeper and deeper. And then I'm like, I don't ever want to leave. So this book definitely did that for Hercules. Yes. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really loved it. Was something that I'd always thought about the movie is I wish I knew more about Meg. I feel like we miss so much of her. We only get like the tiniest hint at her backstory that Hades mentions in passing, and she only brings up when she sings like I won't say I'm in love, and you get the idea that she's been burned by it before, but you don't really know what happened. And I really loved that we kind of got to dig into that and see what was going on with that.
And even going, why was she Hercules' henchman? Like, why was she
working for Hades? Yeah,
Hercules. Hades.
I mean, now she's Hercules' henchman, if you want to
know. Pretty much. And it was fascinating. I like the Twisted Tales enough. Some of them are not my favorites. I don't reread them. This one probably is in my top 3.
Yeah. I wasn't really into it. The first half I thought was a little, she got the groove as she went through the story. I feel the front was a little bit questionable, but the ending I just loved. Like the second half.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Well, I even love the like childhood what the mother was and who raised her, and why she was such a strong woman who was like, I've got this. I'm fine. I can tie my own shoes. Thank you very much.
So. I really loved seeing just more about Meg. I think was so much nice. Was so nice. Yes, I definitely want to go back and watch the movie again now that I finished the book. I didn't get a chance to do it this month, but now I feel like I'm going to have a whole different perspective on it, and I'm excited to see what I think of it. But yes, the music of Hercules, fantastic, so good. Go the Distance, the song does make me cry every single time. It's just really powerful. I don't know how many books are in the Twisted Tale series. I feel like this is number like 15 or something. It's a lot.
There is a lot.
Let me see what Goodreads has to say about that. But I know in September, the next one comes out and it's Tangled, and we're going to read it in October, and I'm so excited. I was just too excited. Normally we have a poll where we vote for the next book, but I had too much hype for what once was mine. So I was like, we have to read it like new. And we read so many like backlist Disney books, which I love, but I think it's going to be fun to like read some new releases. It's going to be really interesting, which we kind of did here. So let me see what Goodreads has to say about how many Twisted Tales there are. It's several. This is our 5th that we've read together as a book club, which I didn't realize that it'd been that many. And I was like, oh man, this is number 5. But yes. Okay, Go the Distance was number 11. So I think what once was mine will be number 12. So 12. There's an even dozen of them will be as of next month or whatever.
Yes.
So there's plenty. There's more that we have not even tried as the book club that I haven't read, and we haven't read as the book club. So yeah, but I'm enjoying them. I think I don't know that necessarily I'm enjoying them more. My favorite is still As Old as Time, and that was the first one that we read as a book club. I think that one was just the best throughout. But I will say Reflection, which we read last book club, and this one, I think maybe not my favorite plot-wise, but the messages that they had were my favorites of the series so far.
I think that's what drove it in for me, is the message. The like with Reflections, that you can be a million different pieces make up who you are. You're not just one definition. There's not one thing that defines you. And with this one, I think it's so beautifully written so that you learn to forgive your past. You learn to cheer people on, that just because you're not walking and they're not beside you, whatever relationship you might have, friendship, whatever, doesn't mean that you can't want the best for them, and you can't fight for them to find it themselves too. And part of that is forgiving. And if you don't forgive the hardships, or if you don't let go of the people that have hurt you, or the lies you're told or anything, you're hurting yourself. You're not hurting them. You're hurting yourself because you're not able to progress. And I think that was beautifully portrayed in this storyline. Yes.
And I love that it's a lot about how we take pieces from every relationship that we have, and that kind of makes us who we are. That like we are our own people, of course, but so much of it is like things that you learn from other people, things you don't even realize you've picked up along the way of being in a relationship with them. And then when you lose them, you still have that piece of them. And sometimes that's comforting, sometimes that hurts, but it's definitely something that you have to learn, and it becomes a part of who you are, and it helps you progress. Like you said, it helps you grow as a person.
You're a puzzle, this gigantic puzzle, and you take little pieces of all the other places you go, people you visit, your good moments, your bad moments, and you put them all together, and without each piece, you're not whole. And you have to collect those pieces throughout time. And I think that this book really exemplifies that. Sometimes it's hard. You're like, I'm hurt by this situation. I'm hurt by this person. I can't get over it. I miss even the loss of a loved one. Even the her mother passing away, or the I can't even remember her name right now, but her when you have a child there and she's like grown up and she's like,
yes,
no,
oh my gosh,
fine.
Layla.
And then you
and Layla was what made me cry, I think, the first time, because she's like, we're okay here. Mm-hmm. And I was like,
I cried so hard when they were talking about she's okay now because Meg's mother had her. And I was just like, oh my gosh, see how beautiful it is. And just like that too, like, you're not the only one that can do this job. There are other people. So if you ever feel exhausted, if you ever feel like you need something, you have to do something else to progress your life. It doesn't mean that this person isn't going to be cared for, or this person is left alone. It was so beautiful.
Yes. And there was that whole thing that Meg was learning about how love is asking for help, because when you love someone, you want to help them. Like, that's the thing that you want to do is to offer them help, but you have to accept it yourself as well. Yes. And that's really a big part of, family and love and building relationships with people.
Full circle, yeah.
Yeah, it was just so good. I loved it. Patty, that is a great suggestion, and I will definitely consider that, doing a video about how to use Goodreads. I'm sure something like that exists, but I will definitely see if I can take that on.
I like any book-related videos that Abby does, but I'm such a book person that, like, I loved seeing the bookshelf come together. I love the, like, reading with me and seeing you, because you are in a moment. And I'm like, I don't understand why I didn't get a message saying that I needed to read this book, but
I meant to send one to you actually when I finished reading it, and I just completely forgot. And then when the thing went up and you were like, why didn't you tell me to read this? And I was like, oh, I totally meant to. But I was like thinking the whole time I was reading it, I was like, Nicole will love this. Nicole will love this. And then I didn't want to recommend it until I had finished it. Yeah. But yeah, I hope you like it.
I do too. I hope so. I'm reading Straight On Till Morn right now.
Mm-hmm. How's it going?
It's going. I'll finish it. It's not my least favorite Twisted Tale. I will say that.
Yeah, I've heard some mixed reviews about that one. Some people really liked it. Some people didn't.
We'll see. We're a little over halfway done. However, did you read Dust and Shadow?
I read Dust. I haven't read Shadow yet.
Dust is good.
I loved it. Oh, I loved it.
Dust is good. It has a good base.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow,
I'm so excited.
I haven't felt emotionally connected, and like I was in my emotions for a read like that since like I went through the Lunar Chronicles and I hit Winter's book. And this book was
high praise.
It was not quite as intense because I didn't have 5 books of loving these people.
Right.
However, the imagery that Kara Swanson wrote in detail for Shadow was amazing. I love that book 1,000 times more than Dust.
This is the one she's talking about, if you're wondering. Actually, this isn't. Shadow is the sequel. It just came out. So I don't have a physical copy, but I have it on my Kindle, and I'm going to read it soon. I just had a lot of other things to finish up by the end of the month. So,
yes.
But I really enjoyed Dust. I thought it was really fascinating. Oh, hi, Kat. Hello. Yes, Patty, it's really cool because we're doing this on StreamYard because I have Nicole joining me, so I can actually put comments on the screen. So a little fancier than what we normally do. Other than book club books, what are you reading right now? Oh gosh, what am I reading? Literally, Go the Distance has been the last 3 days for me. It's just been consuming my life. So what am I reading right now? I am listening to an audiobook that I put down because I was listening to Go the Distance, which I liked the audiobook a lot. I thought it was pretty good. I think Reflection was better on audio, but I liked this one. Oh, I'm listening to my very first Karen Wittemeyer book. Actually, my second Karen Wittemeyer book. It's the sequel to the first one that I just read. And it's a like Christian historical romance, but it's super funny. And the main character's name is Abigail, and I'm loving it. And it's called More Than Words Can Say. And I am enjoying it a lot. I think like halfway through, and then I put it down to do this. So I'll be going back to that.
Because a TV read list grows so quickly. You're like,
so yeah, and then Shadow will be next on my list because I finished Dust and I was like, I can't wait to read book 2 because there's so many questions that I'm left with from that. So, so Nicole took a break from Neverland to visit Mount Olympus and the Underworld for
I did
for a little bit. For a little bit.
I'm back. I'm back in Neverland. We're good.
Okay, good. Yes, I agree, Alicia. It is so fun to go the distance happens during the Olympics. It is very fitting, It's very fitting.
Have you guys been watching any of the Olympics?
Oh, yes. The Olympics are huge in this household. Because we were homeschooled, so every, 2 years there was a whole unit of study on whatever country was hosting and the Olympic history and all the sports and everything. So we don't have as much study this year, but we've been watching a lot, yes. My favorite this year, my new favorite that my family's been making fun of me for because I won't stop talking about it, is badminton, which is totally random. It was on TV and I just happened to be watching it while I was editing, and it is mesmerizing. I don't know what it is, but it's fascinating.
You
never know what's gonna catch your fancy when you're watching the Olympics. It's different every time.
Brad was a competitive swimmer for many years, well over a decade. Very good too. So we kind of gravitate towards swim just because we did. And my husband swam in high school and everything. So it was really neat to see the IM medley last night because it was mixed. The boys and the girls were swimming together, which is that was a first. But ironically enough, as soon as they touched and finished the thing, it said world record. I'm like, it was the first time of course it's a world record.
Yes. Okay. Inevitably, it's gonna be a world record, no matter what they swim.
Yeah, but
let us know in the chat if you guys are watching the Olympics. What's your favorite sport that you've been watching? Obviously, we love, swimming. We love gymnastics. Those are kind of the go-to heavy hitters for us. Track and field is starting, which is exciting.
Yeah. Synchronized diving. I'm always fascinated by just the. I don't know. They're so coordinated. I'm like, wow, look at you. I could fall off of a board, but that's about as graceful as I'm getting. And then it's really neat that surfing is a thing this year. That
and skateboarding too.
That this is the first time that those are Olympic sports. And I heard that cheerleading has just been accepted as an actual Olympic sport. So hopefully at the next Olympics, if not the one following. So it's really beautiful to have people. They are people. They are not fictional characters. These are people that train very, very hard, that give up many extracurricular activities and social lives to try to be the best. And just the physical abilities that they are capable of with their talents, but also the sacrifice that they truly do put on their body and on their mental strain and stuff. It's, again, with the book, you're capable of so much. Yeah, you are. You're really capable of a lot more than you think.
Yes.
You just really have to be willing to push through the not so good moments, and
it all fits because this is Greek mythology.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
Olympians.
There's practically the Olympics could be going on in the background of this book. We just don't know it. I mean,
yes,
Herc's probably not allowed to compete, so why would he tell us? Oh goodness. Yes, all the new events this year have been fascinating, and we were just watching a couple of hours ago. They had the mixed triathlon going on, which is the same thing. The men and the women have been competing together for the first time this year as a team, which I think is super cool. So that's one of the things they're doing. Equestrian eventing, very fun, very fun. Equestrian is fascinating because I just don't know anything about it. So
yeah, see, Belle loves horses, and So it adds that extra little giddy up.
Yeah. Literally.
Literally. I'm so funny.
Oh, I love it.
Um,
yeah. So those have been my favorites, obviously, of course, this year. It's just been fun just to watch everything because it's so fascinating to see these people do things that I would never be able to do myself. And they have dedicated so much time and effort to it. I'm like, nope. But yeah, super cool. Let's see. Oh, I like this caveat you put on this, Patty. Not including Narnia. What is my favorite Christian book series? See, Narnia is my go-to answer. Now you have to.
My favorite Christian book series is Left Behind.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because I think that it answers and asks so many different questions that once you get into this series, it touches on belief systems and structures and what really having faith means, because sometimes it doesn't mean going to church and sitting in a pew and everything. Sometimes it means a personal relationship that's different with God. Yeah. And I love how it goes through so many different avenues of what faith really is and what being a true believer means.
Yeah.
In a way that creates questions and excitement for people that maybe are not familiar with the Lord.
Right.
So it's a really good story base on its own, but then people start asking, well, what if this, could this happen? Well, what if this? And then as a believer, if you read that book, sometimes you can self-reflect, do I? Am I going through the motions, but not really feeling? So for me, that's mine, but that's because I really think that it was powerful. It was a very powerful series. And there's 20
a bajillion of them. And if you read the kids ones too, it's another 40 books,
books for you. That's a whole 2.5 years of my life right there.
There you go. Yeah, I read the kids ones. I think read the first of the adult ones, but the kids ones were, I thought, really good. I read them when I was in middle school, so I really liked them.
Grad too.
Yeah. This is a struggle. I have a lot of favorites from a lot of different genres because one of my favorite things is finding, there's so many out there, especially independently published, that are have great faith message, and then it's also a fantasy. It's great. I think, I did really enjoy, like I said a minute ago, I just finished Karen Whittemeyer's More Than Meets the Eye. That's what it's called. More Than Meets the Eye. And I really enjoyed it. It portrayed a Christian who is just full of the joy of the Lord. And I feel like there's so few, especially in Christian fiction, a lot of it is focused on people who are struggling in their faith. And that's good. That's important. We need to see that, obviously, because that's where a lot of people are. But she was so confident and joyful in the salvation that she'd been given. And I just loved it. And it was super fun, super funny. But then there's also the love interest who's also kind of struggling in his faith. So we kind of got both. But I just really loved that Evangeline really just loved life and loved God and loved that she got to be in creation. And I thought it was great. So that was really fun. So that's Karen Whittemeyer, More Than Meets the Eye, Left Behind, Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins. Those are our recommendations. And I have a lot of other favorites. So if you message me or whatever, I will definitely let you know. I have a whole Christian fiction shelf on Goodreads where everything goes that I've read. So it's great. Hello, welcome to the chat. We're going to talk about Go the Distance again now because we enjoy talking about the Olympics and everything else. But let me see what I had written down in my notes, things that I thought as I was reading it. I really enjoyed that this one started after the movie had already happened, because a lot of the Twisted Tales take something that happens either at the beginning of the movie or maybe towards the end and change it to be something else. But this one's like, Hercules happened. Here's what happened next. And I thought that was really fun because I was really worried when I read the description because it said something like Herc has to go up to Olympus and Meg has to go back to Earth. And I was like, did he choose Olympus over Meg? That's so out of character. That doesn't feel right. But he was forced to choose Lucas over Meg. So it's all good. Which I thought is very interesting. And it kind of continued the story. And I thought everybody was like pretty good in character as far as the characters that we know and love from the movie.
Yes, very identifiable. Like the writing style was congruent with the, because I know I don't have a problem if you switch stuff up. Like I'm all like, my imagination works on overpowered mode. Right. But so like I'm reading Neverland and more Neverland and more Neverland. And sometimes this one, like sometimes Pan is actually a decent human being.
Right.
And sometimes he is about the root of all evils. And I'm okay.
I enjoy that Peter Pan can go either way. I think that's a really fun thing to do as a character because you can really go either way with him. But
the same thing with Hook. They are making Hook is the, oh my gosh.
I remember thinking when I was reading Dust, I was like, oh, Hook's actually the villain. Nicole's gonna hate this. Hook's actually bad.
Or is he?
Or is he? I haven't read Shadow yet, so I guess I'll reserve judgment.
But I did find that this one is easy for the people that like they love the Disney movies, so they want to read a book that's Disney based and actually see the Meg that they know and the Herc they know and watch Phil, because let's face it, Phil's a big part of this book.
I loved how much Phil and Pegasus got to be in this book, because that's been my main complaint, I think, of most of the Twisted Tales that I've read, is there's not enough of the sidekicks, and they were like prime in that storyline, and I loved it.
So it is, but it was very much like you were watching a continuation of the movie that actually went back in time too and foreshadowed what was going to happen and how she became who she was and how she was strong. But the writing style was impeccable to keeping true to the character. Yeah. And I think that's really hard, especially with how high everybody like holds Disney. They're like, like this is my person.
I will say the one character I was the most nervous to see how she was going to do it was Hades, because he's so iconic in the film, the way that he talks and the things that he says, and like just the characterization of him is so distinct in the film. And I was like, I don't know how she's going to do it, but she did really well, I thought, with Hades.
See, with Hades, I always go to the Descendants. Yes. Hades, but that's because like Belle's probably watched that movie 1,000,000,000,000 times.
And I mean, Cheyenne Jackson, so like, you know, his singing voice is great in Descendants. We gotta give it to him.
So,
but yeah, I thought she did a great job. And also the introduction of Persephone, which I was so excited about. Because that was one thing I'd always thought about the original movie. I was like, where is Persephone in all of this? But I guess they couldn't really redeem Hades if they want him to be the big bad villain. They're like, we can't give him a kind of nice, girlfriend.
Yeah, you can't show that he actually has a heart, that he is a caring individual and stuff. You have to.
He has to be just supreme overlord of evil,
Right.
That's what these spin-offs are for, is to redeem the villain.
It's to help our hearts just understand.
But I appreciated that they gave him Persephone, and he loves Persephone, but he's also still very much Hades. Like, he'll maybe bend for her, but not for anybody else. Like, there's nothing.
It was like that the window was opening just slightly.
Like, maybe there's a little bit of hope that maybe he'll, someday maybe change a little bit. But yeah, I loved seeing her. And I really liked seeing Hera not play the villain, because pretty much every adaptation, well, I say pretty much every, I'm mainly thinking Percy Jackson, which this gave me a lot of Percy Jackson vibes. So if anybody is a fan of Percy Jackson and you want more like it, I think you'd really enjoy this one, because it very much felt very much like that. But Hera's not the nicest person in in the Percy Jackson series, and I thought she was really good here. She basically sent Meg on her quest and was very gracious and kind about it.
She seemed to build her up, basically saying, you don't think that you're worthy, or you don't think that you're capable of this, but you have to be. Like you are, and you're cutting yourself short. And who are you, Meg? Who are you? Why are you this way? Why do you think this was? Like, she gave her the tools. Now, I haven't read Percy Jackson, and I haven't watched anything. I know nothing Percy Jackson. So, and happy birthday, Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah, also, shout out. And Neville Longbottom. Isn't his birthday also today?
He's one of my favorites.
I love Neville. Neville and Luna are my favorite Harry Potter characters.
My favorites are Neville, Luna, and Trelawney in the... I also really like... but then if you go into the movies, and I like the Fantastic Beasts, Lita Lestrange, I'm so sad that I don't know more about her because I love her. Like, I cry so hard. And that, like,
I actually have yet to see the second Fantastic Beasts movie. I need to do that. We didn't ever watch it, but I loved the first one. I really did.
So sweet. And Nagini.
Because I love Newt, our main Hufflepuff main character. Represent.
I'm a Ravenclaw. But the kids are Hufflepuffs, so we have lots of Hufflepuffs in the household, just not I.
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah. Happy birthday, Harry Potter. Happy birthday, Neville Longbottom. But yeah, I really liked the way that they portrayed the gods in this one. I thought it was a really nice job. And Athena and Aphrodite totally coming in and being really nice people to her. I really loved, because that's not the way I've really seen them portrayed in the past of things that I've read them in. You know, I mean, they're fine, but like they're not super gracious or nice. So
typical gods, right? Like you're a little bit narcissistic. You're a little bit set in your ways. You believe that your cause is the only cause.
Yeah.
And you can't really see from another person's perspective because, unfortunately, ego is a very nasty 3-letter word. That
it really is. Yeah. And I love that, that I think it was really interesting that all three of them, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, all had like a different reason to help her. Like there was a different facet of her quest that they were there for. Like Aphrodite's like, you're in love with Hercules. Hercules is in love with you, so I'm going to help you because it's a love story. And Athena's like, you know, you got my pipes back and all this stuff. So I think it was really interesting to see them all take on a different perspective. And that Hera was like, you make my son happy, and therefore you make me happy. And I was like, I love a good Mama Hera. This is very nice. I appreciate it. Hi, Anna. Yeah, so I thought it was a really cool portrayal of Olympus in general. I thought they did a pretty good job with that. Let's see. What else did I write down? Oh, I liked that we kind of also get to explore Hercules and Meg dealing with almost the after happily ever after feelings, that they're like, we don't know how to be together. Like we do, but we're gonna fight. And they have their first fight and they're like, what do we do now? And all of these kinds of things that like we don't really get to see in the Disney movies because we have the happy ending. They're together, everything's happy. So in this one, they're like, let's take that a little deeper. Let's explore some of the roots of why Meg feels the way she does and may have been hesitant about certain things and
imperfections and lineage. Just because the father is portrayed a certain way doesn't always mean that the child or the mother, like that the child will follow suit. But it does come with a of course,
trepidation.
Absolutely. Yeah. You'd be like, wait a minute. So are we just talking me and you, or this is like?
Yeah. So I loved that they kind of had to dig into their relationship and figure out what they really wanted with each other and with everything.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the whole time, I was like, that would be really awkward. You better be really sure about this, because if you get made a god and he's already made a god and you break up, that's really uncomfortable for the rest of eternity, because you have to live together on Olympus. So
no.
Although we all know the Greek gods were just the prime example of healthy marriage, don't we? Yes. Okay. Anyway, So I thought that was an interesting take on it. And I think that's just because this one took place after the story, so we kind of got to see a little bit more after the story. Also, I loved Aegeus and Katerina and that whole plot line story thing that she had to go through. So Meg had to go and Hera tasks her to find the wife of the guy who dumped her, which is her whole backstory in Hercules, why she sold her soul to Hades. So, can't talk. Diving into that and having her deal with the repercussions of that and the emotions of that. And I just loved the character of Aegeus. I thought he was a sweetheart. And I was like, I see why she has a type. He reminds me so much of Herc.
And then I also loved the concept that she thought she spent all this time harboring these feelings of resentment and anger because she thought a situation was the way that it was, when in all actuality, it wasn't. Right. She thought that he had moved on very quickly and in a matter of days had fallen in love with this woman, and it was just like, when really it had been years, and he was hurt and devastated by her leaving. And it just shows that, like, just because you think you know the situation doesn't mean that you do at all. And you are choosing to react to something that you might not be educated about, because it was definitely, and then what happens when you find that out, when you're like, oh my gosh, he pined for me? You mean he still loved me? Yeah. Oh my gosh, you mean it was hard for him to move on? Why don't I just leave her in the underworld when she wasn't supposed to die and go, like, raise the kid with my man and just leave Herc up on Mount Olympus? Like, at what point do you not have to at least think about that?
Right.
Because this is somebody that loved you and that you loved so much that you were scorned, and that you were scorned by him. I mean,
you loved him enough that it hurt you that deeply, that, that you've been carrying it all these years. But I just loved when Hercules was like, Hades told you that and you believed him? I was like, that's a very good point. And he's like, you really thought that Hades would tell you the whole truth about that situation? Clearly the answer would be no. Who could have seen that one coming? Hades didn't tell her the whole truth?
But at the same time, isn't that life? Like, sometimes you just want to take people for their value. They say that this is what happens. You're emotionally invested in the situation they're talking about.
Right.
Instead of digging deeper, you tend to take it at face value. You feel your feelings, whatever they are. And then, like, aftermath can kind of come at you. And but I loved that part because it just showed how strong, like, how much stronger she was, because she was able to say the situation was wrong. I was wrong.
Yeah. This doesn't define me anymore. This isn't who I am anymore. Because that was kind of her whole character, was that she was, the woman scorned who sold her soul, and her boyfriend walked out with somebody else. But now she's like, that's not my defining story trait anymore. I'm somebody else. I have a new life now. And I can move on.
She can ask for help, or she can at least accept help and realize that she can't do everything by herself, that at some point you can't walk this life alone, and you can't face these river demons, and you can't walk into situations with nobody around you.
Right.
And they might not be the same person that's going from task to task, but you need somebody. And I think that that's conducive to life, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, this book for me was very much, it was relatable. And I think because there were so many amazing life lessons that made it relatable, and it was characters that I know from the movies and stuff, like, so very well done, that I personally liked it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I really did. And I randomly at the end, I realized I was crying, and I was like, why am I, like, tearing up right now? Because it was really touching and very emotional right there at the end. The part with her mother at the end, I was like,
Oh, I was crying way earlier with the mother's story and stuff like that, because it's hard when you're like, I needed you. Yeah. Where were you? Why weren't you there? Because you did this and that. No, I was trying to help you. I was trying to make you strong enough that you weren't going to be me.
Right.
And
it was great, you guys. If you didn't read it with us this month, we highly recommend it for sure.
I do, and I highly recommend last read too, because
Reflection was also good.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. Yes, I loved the message and the storyline, and I really enjoyed her exploring the underworld, because especially coming off of Reflection, where we saw a different kind of underworld.
Right.
This is a new kind of underworld is kind of how this one works. And she gets to explore the Asphodel, which is kind of like the middle ground. There's like the really good, there's the really bad, and then there's everybody else. They're stuck in Asphodel.
How do you come and you hear somebody who you miss and you love so much calling for you, and you know that if you turn around that you can't, and like how heartbreaking. And I just felt for her in that moment. Yeah. Like I was like, oh.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it was really, I thought, really kind of touching, coming off of, Persephone gets in the boat and she's like, bye, my dear. And Hades like, bye, I'll see you in 6 months. And it's like, whatever. And then Meg is really genuinely struggling with the emotion of the moment. And like, she's like, I know I can't turn around, but I really want to, because I feel like she's, she deserves that. And I didn't get to do that before. But she's like, I can't look back, or I'm stuck. I'm stuck.
Yeah, here. Or I'm here and it's not my time to be here.
Right.
Like I have a life that I have to. And again, life lesson. This is the mom in me. Hi, Abby. This is Mama Nicole going up. I'm like learning a lesson.
There was very much a lot of that going on in this book for me.
You have a lot of people that even though they love you and even though you love them, they're going to hold you back from where you're going and how you're supposed to progress. And you have to be strong enough to not turn around, to not answer that call, to be like, I love you, and I love you enough to know that I need to be the best version of me. And that means progressing my storyline and not staying here where we are.
Especially Meg, because she had been there for so long. Yes. And that was her whole life, that she had been hurt by these people. And now she's like, I have a new life. I have a new purpose in my life. Mm-hmm. And I can move on. And it's finally like shedding that weight of like, I can become the next version of myself.
And I think it was not even done selfishly because she wanted to be. I think at the end, like she wanted Aegeus and Cat, like she wanted them to be happy. She wanted the gods to be pleased, not just with her, but with everything that was going on, for Persephone to be able to come and do what she needed to do on Earth. Like she wanted for everybody that was involved.
Yeah.
And that's hard too, not being like selfish, like, oh, but I want to be a god, so I have to do all these things because I have a checklist.
And she really didn't go into it even. She didn't even go into it thinking I want to be a god. She went into it thinking I want to be with Hercules because he needs me to be happy, and I want to be happy with him. And that's really the whole reason that I'm doing all of this nonsense, is just to not have to lose him too, after all of this. And I thought it's just great. Also, Katerina and Layla just broke my heart. I just loved it, but it was so beautiful. And this tiny child who's so wise because she's been here for so long that, she's like, she's a child, but she has so much wisdom of an adult that she's learned over all this time. And she's like, it's just so good. It's so good. I really just love that this one, as opposed to Reflection, which didn't really have to deal with this, but this one really dealt with like loss and grief and death and things that we go through and people that we lose along the way. Where Reflection was like, he's not supposed to die yet, that's why I'm here. Whereas this one was confronting that loss that you go through.
And even all the people that Mulan met in the underworld when she was there were ancestors she knew of. They weren't personal connections to her, where Meg in the underworld, she was coming face to face with people that affected her life.
Yes.
And I think that that's a very much, it's more powerful. Not saying Reflections wasn't powerful, but in the afterlife, like, it was really powerful to see how she had to deal with those transactions, and opposed to Mulan's transactions being very just, I have a goal. I have a goal. And none of these people were invested emotionally with her.
Right. Yeah. Even Shishi, who was her companion in Reflection, she didn't have a personal connection with, like, we're questing partners, but we're not like friends really. So whereas this one, it was, she did have to go to the underworld herself, but it was also something that she was so familiar with in a negative way from her. It was something that she had, she's like, I know the way to Hades' palace because I've been on the river Styx 1,000 times with him, and it's like dealing with the emotions of that as well, of like, I don't want to be here anymore. Right now. I'm not supposed to be here anymore right now. And kind of deciding that. And I guess now she won't ever have to be. So, there's that. So good for her. Yeah. So
and I think it didn't just benefit Meg. It also benefited Hades. It benefited Persephone. It benefited so many people. This storyline really gave happy endings to, a book load of characters instead of just the one main character. It really was, because even Phil has like somebody to train now. Like, everybody had this this end that was happy, and like, ooh, we got something more to come.
Yeah. Which hopeful, I think kind of brought back the whole message, I feel like, is how people affect us and we affect people, and like how everything you do, every word you say, every connection you make can have a profound impact on somebody's life. And, it's really all about Meg realizing that she doesn't have to be alone because there are people who care about her and will help her, but also that she can help other people, and she doesn't just have to be in it for herself. Like, she's good at that. That's kind of her whole thing that she learns about herself, is I'm pretty good at helping the people out when I try, that she just hadn't really thought to try because she'd been by herself so long and been on her own. So, yeah. Well, I think you guys can probably tell we really liked this book. It was a win for me. So, yes. Next 2 months, August and September, we are reading Frozen 2 Dangerous Secrets by Mary Mancusi, which is about Anna and Elsa's parents and how they met, kind of based on their backstory that we got a little bit in Frozen 2. You guys know I love Frozen, so I'm very excited. Are you excited, Nicole?
I am. It's a book that's been on my read list for a long time, and I just never grab it because something else always takes precedence. But I think that as much as I like to know what happens after the stories, I actually prefer the prequels. I prefer to know and that might be why I like this book so much, because it really showed you how
it was both a prequel and a sequel. Like, it's great.
I want to know who you are, but I want to know how you got here. Like, what makes you you? Yes. Because there's a story. Everybody's got a story.
And there's so many questions about Agnar and Aduna that I've always had, because, we don't get to see very much of them in the movie. No. We only kind of see the ramifications of what they did, but and the choices that they made. So I'm interested to see what kind of people, what they had to go through to make them the kind of people who make the choices that they make as adults. So
yes,
I'm excited. And also we get to, I think, maybe explore a little bit more about like the North Ultra culture and all of that stuff. And
I love that too. Like, culturally learning different things, whether it's fictional or it's non-fictional. I don't care. I love listening to different like, why are you this way? Why are you that way? How the winds affect you, how your houses are made. I don't know. It's fascinating to me. Like, that's why I love the Lord of the Rings. That's why I love Harry Potter. Like, I love different worlds, whether they're worlds that I can actually go to, because they're not really worlds. They're just like different lands and stuff. Or completely different worlds. And so I'm really excited to hear that, and like how the magic came into play and the elements, and
so many questions that I hope get answered. And then in October and November, we'll be reading What Once Was Mine, which is the new Twisted Tales coming out in September, I think is when it releases. So we'll be reading it not too long after.
I'm excited for that one too. With the Serena Valentino has the series of the Fairly Odd Sisters. I can't remember what they're called, but
I think it's just the Odd Sisters. Yeah,
the whole entire series that is of them all. What the Mother Knows Best was my favorite, and it made me just, I don't know.
That one was just like a lot of mixed emotions for me, because I'm like, I don't want to like Gothel because I hate Gothel. She's one of those villains I just can't get behind at any point because of what she does to Rapunzel. But I felt
but
so
suddenly you see, you're like conflicted, because you're like, oh my gosh, she's doing
like,
this.
I still don't like her, but like I get it.
It makes her understandable, where she's not my, like, I love Hook because of so many of my books now. Like, he is a 13-year-old child that was stolen and finally decided he wasn't going to play Pan's part anymore. And he grew up on the island, but he is childlike because he was a child. And there's just so many storylines that I'm like, I love you. Like, I love this story. I love him and Tiger Lily. I love all these different books.
Yeah.
I'm not there with Gothel, but I understand. You made it so that I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So I'm excited to see
that this is this way too.
I'm really interested because Tangled the series, which was the continuation series on Disney Channel, which is fantastic if anybody hasn't watched it.
Which has a book series, by the way, for any young readers out there, because Belle read all of them before she realized there was even a series.
Yeah. The TV show's great, but in, I think, season 3, they kind of dive into this moonstone idea and like the opposite of the sundrop flower, and that's, I think, what this book is kind of going to dive into. So I'm curious to see how it differs from Tangled the series, how they do kind of if anything is the same, what they do with it. I don't think Cassandra's in this book, but maybe I'm wrong. But there's some, I'm just curious to see what it's going to be like, because obviously it's going to be something completely different than Tangled, because Rapunzel's hair is kind of like the whole thing of Tangled. So I'm interested to see what we're going to look at with that, because I think it's like her mother drank the wrong flower or something, like some mix up with the flower. So I'm really curious to see what that's going to be about. Also, the cover is purple and it's really pretty. So from an aesthetic standpoint, it's really excited.
You know,
priorities, you know.
It's pretty.
Yes, so those will be our next 2 reads, and then we'll be back to the poll voting system, but I just really wanted to read those, so that's what we're going to do, and I'm really excited. So I hope that everybody who read Go the Distance enjoyed it. If you haven't, I hope that you will read it, because we really enjoyed it, clearly, because we've talked about it for an hour.
And I think, like, every book is different. Me and Abby echo a lot of the same book likes. Yes. We tend to kind of like the same genres, or we like the same storylines. We like the meanings. We like to get invested in different things. And a lot of people don't. Like, I have plenty of friends that read books, and I go, I don't want to read it. Yeah. And then we have conversation after, one of my closest friends, and she's like, literally, I'm like, no. And I'm like, I'm reading this. And she's like, yeah, that's never going to happen. And I'm like, because everybody's different. So if you didn't like it, sorry.
That's okay. That's valid. I mean,
I hope you're reading something else you like.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, especially in this Twisted Tale series, there have been hits and misses for me. So, yeah. I don't know how I would rank them. I think I've read 5 now because we've read 5 with the book club, and those are the only ones I've read. So,
and the ones I do believe that the book club, I can't remember.
We read Beauty and the Beast. We read As Old as Time, which is my favorite for sure.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
Which Nicole has read like 3 times, so she's up on me for that. I think for me it was the murder mystery type vibes to it. I really enjoyed. Thought it was really good.
I like that it was like suddenly you were invested in this book and you're reading this book and you're just going along and you're reading this book and then
all of a sudden
you're like slapped in the face and you're like, wait, I missed something. I need to go back and reread this because I have no idea how we got here, but we're here.
It was really good.
So that one was very much so.
We read So This Is Love, which was Cinderella, which was also kind of a continuation of the movie. And I really liked that one a lot. I know some people didn't, but I really liked it.
I didn't. It's probably the middle of the pack-ish for me.
Yeah. Let me think. We read Frozen. We read Conceal Don't Feel.
Which one was good.
Yeah, I liked that one. It was very different from Frozen because the question was
they didn't even know
the whole thing.
Right.
Changed the whole thing. And then we read Mulan and now Hercules. So
and Mulan reflections.
Yeah.
This one and As Old as Time of the book club are like my tops. I liked those ones more so. And I think they might have been the tops of all the ones I've read because I've also read the Aladdin one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that one's not good. But I think that was like the first one, wasn't it? Or was Sleeping Beauty first? One of those two was the first one.
Sleeping Beauty, I've tried. I haven't finished, which is hard for me because I'm like a completist. But I always get really close. And then just something happens to me and I can't. So the Little Mermaid one, which was actually really good. I really like that one too.
I have to say, I mean, my copy of Reflection has like a preview of Part of Your World, and I started reading it and I was like, I want to read this now.
Yeah, I like Part of Your World also, and then I'm reading Straight On Till Morn. So I've read most of them, but not all of them.
I know our friend Taryn from Twinkle Bell Taryn was reading on birthday, and I don't think she liked it. That was the Alice in Wonderland one, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't think she liked it. But yeah. So yeah, we're going to be reading another one coming very soon, and I am really excited about it because Tangled is the best. And we all know this. I like this comment, as long as it's pretty and purple, Abby will read it. And that is true.
Oh.
I don't, not necessarily, not all the time, but it definitely draws my eye more than, I'll be honest, I'm superficial. I like a pretty cover, okay? Like, it doesn't have to have a pretty cover, but like a pretty cover is a bonus,
I am that person that sits on the floor in Barnes and Nobles and reads a stack of the back of the books. What's worse is that my daughter is the person that literally reads the first chapter of like a stack that rivals mine and is taller than her. So we're like in the bookstore for hours, just like not talking. I think you'd like this book. I think you'd like.
Nice. I'm the person who the bookstore is like always en route to something else, so I never have time to do that. But I would love to do that because that sounds fantastic. Yeah, I don't know if Dangerous Secrets is on audiobook. I didn't see it from my library, but I have to see. I know I saw they had the ebook, so that's probably how I'm gonna read it. And then Lost in a Book was really good, I thought. I've read it twice now. I read it before the book club and then with the book club.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. I thought it was an interesting take on it. That one's kind of a mid-movie spin-off rather than like a prequel or a sequel. It's like in the middle of the story. But yeah, So I hope that you guys had fun with this live chat. Thank you, Nicole, for stepping in and co-hosting with me.
Thank you for having me.
This was really fun. I love getting to hear your thoughts, not just in the chat, but like hear them from you.
Yes.
That was fun. And it helps that it was one that we both really liked. So
yeah.
That would have been
when, you know, you're talking to somebody who's read the book and you're like, so you're bouncing it off of each other and like, oh, I love this part. Oh yeah. And then that sparks you remembering, because obviously I've read like 2 or 3 books since I finished that one now.
Right. Same. Well, not actually, no, because I finished it last night.
But okay.
Take that back.
So, you know, when Abby would say something, it sparks me. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And then I remember this more.
Yeah. So we recommend for sure. Definitely. And we've been talking now for an hour, so I think I'm probably going to wrap this up right about now. So next book, Frozen 2, Dangerous Secrets, Mary Mancusi reading about Agnar and Iduna and their love story, maybe? I don't know. We'll find out. So in September, we will talk about that and probably just fangirl about Frozen 2 more, because that's what we do when we read Frozen books around here, because Frozen 2 is fantastic. So go read the book, then watch Frozen 2, and then we'll chat about it in September. So yes, thank you all so much for joining. Thank you again, Nicole, for hosting this with me. And we'll see you next time. So bye. If you want to join the Facebook group, it's linked in the description, and I have updates there occasionally and probably should do them more. So bye.